Japan's largest warship, the Izumo, will be escorting a U.S. Navy supply vessel in Japanese waters. The Izumo, a helicopter carrier, will protect a U.S. ship that will be supplying other ships in the region, including the Carl Vinson Aircraft Carrier Group. The carrier group was deployed in response to North Korean missile tests, drawing threats from the north. Meanwhile, North Korea undertook another failed missile test Saturday, April 29th, despite international warnings to halt missile testing, including from the U.S. and Japan. Japan's post-war constitution is pacifist, but legislation passed in 2015 allows Japanese forces to protect foreign allies abroad. This is the first instance in which the Self-Defense Force has been deployed to accompany a U.S. vessel in this capacity. The Izumo left its base near Tokyo on Monday and will escort the U.S. ship to an area off the southern Japanese island of Shikoku. For United News International, I'm Matt Paul.
Russian police arrested several activists calling for better treatment of gay men in the Southern Republic of Chechnya. One activist arrested May 1st in St. Petersburg told Reuters police detained around 20 gay rights protesters. Activists were gathered near the Anishkov Bridge at the time of the arrest. Images posted on social media show demonstrators lying on the ground as if dead, with fake blood smeared across their faces. Many were covered with rainbow and Chechnya flags. Rights groups have long criticized Russia for its treatment of the LGBTQ community. An independent newspaper in the country called Novaya Gazeta reported last month that around 100 gay men were being held in so-called camps in Chechnya. The source said the men were being tortured and at least 3 had been killed. Reuters said Chechnya President Ramzan Kadyrov denied the alleged abuse and said no gay men existed in the republic. For United News International, I'm Cambry Caldwell.
As Americans start thinking about their summer vacation, the U.S. State Department issues a renewed travel alert to a popular destination. Officials are warning citizens living in and traveling to Europe of the ongoing threat of terrorist attacks. The department says although local governments continue counterterrorism operations, it remains concerned about the potential for future attacks. It says U.S. citizens should always be alert to the possibility that terrorist sympathizers or self-radicalized extremists may conduct attacks with little or no warning. The alert mentioned a series of recent strikes in France, Russia, Sweden, and the UK, noting that extremists often target tourist hotspots. This new travel alert expires after the summer travel season on September 1st, 2017. For United News International New York, I'm Rumi Fukushima.
Authorities are stumped by unusually high numbers of humpback whale deaths along the eastern coast of the United States. Over 40 humpback whales have been found dead from Maine to North Carolina since the beginning of last year. This is well above the average of 14 per year. Experts examined 20 of the dead whales and determined half died from human causes, such as being run over by boats. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration declared an unusual mortality event April 26th, saying there will be an expert investigation to determine the cause. An unusual mortality event is defined as unexpected significant die-off of any mammal population, demanding immediate response. CNN reported that unusual mortality events for humpback whales were also declared in 2006, 2005, and 2003. The causes were never determined. For United News International, I'm Matt Paul.
CBS News has reported that May Day protests turned violent in the Pacific Northwest as demonstrators in Portland, Oregon threw smoke bombs and Molotov cocktails at police. Elsewhere, thousands of people peacefully marched against President Trump's immigration and labor policies. From New England to the Midwest to the West Coast, people chanted and picketed against Mr. Trump, along with the traditional May Day labor rallies. Protesters flooded streets in Chicago. At the White House gates, they demanded Donald Trump has got to go. In Portland, Oregon, police shut down a protest they say had become a riot and arrested more than 24 people.
NBC News has reported that North Korea is throwing missiles up to show the Trump administration the country is a serious international player. 2 U.S. officials said it doesn't seem to matter to the Kim Jong-un regime whether the tests succeed or fail, and most have failed. On Friday, a missile capable of striking targets in South Korea detonated minutes after launch, scattering debris over land and sea. Called the NK-17, the missile is among those the officials say Pyongyang has launched, knowing they might not be ready. One official said they want to show they can. They believe they learn something new from every launch, success or failure.
After recent derailments disrupted travel for hundreds of thousands of commuters, Amtrak is planning to close some tracks for weeks and months at a time as it undergoes repairs at New York's congested Pennsylvania station. On Thursday, Amtrak Chief Executive Officer Wick Moorman announced the repairs but did not provide details of which tracks could be closed, when, and for how long. According to Amtrak's State of Good Repair Plan, some repairs will cause significant service impact this summer, requiring that certain tracks be out of service for 19 days from July 7th through July 25th. Another project will last 25 days from August 4th through the 28th to replace timber, tracks, signals, and concrete. On Tuesday, 4 conservation groups have sued the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management to halt fracking plans in Ohio's only national forest. The suit argues that the federal agencies failed to sufficiently analyze risks to watersheds, public health, climate, and endangered species. In December, 670 acres of the Wayne National Forest in southeast Ohio were auctioned for eventual hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, of underground shale. The groups are seeking an injunction to halt oil and gas leasing and development until a new assessment can be made.
Large pits of polluted water, some spanning up to 40 acres, have sparked public outrage in China. Aerial images first released April 19th show red and yellow wastewater pits in Dacheng County, located in northern China's Hebei province. The Chongqing Liangjiang Voluntary Service Center, an NGO which took the images, says tests revealed the water was strongly acidic. According to the local government, the pits were formed in 2013 by factories that were illegally dumping acid waste and contaminated water. An investigation has been launched, and China's Ministry of Environmental Protection has ordered authorities to ramp up monitoring of water and soil in and around the area. China has struggled to combat water pollution in the face of rampant industrialization. The country's environment minister recently announced that more than a third of the land used by heavy polluting industries contained soil that did not meet government standards. For United News International, I'm Mila Uni.
A 36-year-old man with a criminal history killed his roommate, shot his neighbor, and opened fire on responding paramedics in a Dallas neighborhood during an attack that prompted police to barricade the area for hours. Derek Lamont Brown was acting erratically at his home before he forced his 67-year-old roommate into a back room and fatally shot him Monday. The gunshots prompted a neighbor to go outside, where Brown shot him as well. Armed with a semi-automatic rifle, Brown then fired at emergency responders trying to help his neighbor, critically wounding a paramedic. Brown also fired at police officers, including one officer who sustained an injury to his calf, possibly from gunfire. Brown's criminal history includes charges of aggravated assault, driving while intoxicated, and illegal gun possession. The attack prompted police to block access to the area until a police robot searched Brown's home. The robot found Brown and his roommate dead. Police believe Brown died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
They probably did not lose themselves in the music or the moment, but a judge and 9 lawyers in a New Zealand courtroom did listen to Eminem's Lose Yourself as a copyright trial involving the country's ruling political parties started on Monday. The Detroit-based music publishers for Eminem are suing New Zealand's Conservative National Party. They allege the soundtrack for a 2014 election campaign ad copied the rapper's acclaimed 2002 song. The supposedly copied track was titled Eminem-esque and was the familiar, urgent, pulsing beat of the original.
An FBI translator who was investigating an ISIS terrorist ended up marrying him. CNN first reported the case of Daniela Green on May 2nd. Green began investigating an ISIS terrorist named Dennis Cuthbert in 2014. Cuthbert was a German rapper who joined ISIS in Syria in 2013. Green discovered several of Cuthbert's online accounts during her investigation, and CNN reports she had sole access to a Skype account of his. Green left the country in June 2014, telling the FBI she was visiting her parents in Germany. Instead, she flew to Turkey and crossed the border to Syria, where she married Cuthbert and told him he was under investigation. Green quickly grew to regret her decision, though, and fled Syria for the U.S. later that summer. She was convicted of making false statements involving international terrorism and served 2 years in prison. Green was released last August. For United News International, I'm Mila Uni.
A wildfire in Georgia has burned more than 100,000 acres of the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, and according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, it could take until November to put the fire out completely. About 1/4 of the wildlife refuge has been burnt, and the blaze is only 8% contained so far. Spokesman Mark Davis said, "The firefighters' plan is to contain the fire as best they can, hoping that nature will cooperate with some rainfall."
All aboard! Japan's newest luxury sleeper train made its maiden voyage May 1st. The train suite Shikishima set out on a 4-day journey from Tokyo to Hokkaido. The train is being touted as opulence on wheels, with bathtubs made from specialty cypress wood and food prepared by Michelin star chefs. The cheapest ticket is just under $2,900 while the priciest suite costs about $8,500 per person. Passengers can choose either a 2-day or 4-day journey. But shelling out cash won't even secure you a spot. A lottery for seats on the day of the train's maiden journey was reportedly oversubscribed by a factor of 76. Shikishima is now fully booked until March 2018. The 10-coach train operated by East Japan Railway Company features 17 guest rooms and can accommodate 34 passengers. Its debut comes as luxury rail travel in Japan experiences a surge in popularity. For United News International, I'm Mila Uni.
We may finally have some answers as to why a glacier in Antarctica looks like it's bleeding. The phenomenon is reportedly caused by iron-rich brine mixing with seawater. When it meets the air, it turns a deep red color like blood. This discovery could bring closure to decades of speculation over what's causing blood falls. Scientists from the University of Alaska Fairbanks and Colorado College published their findings in the Journal of Glaciology. Several theories about the waterfall's red color have been proposed over the years, but it wasn't until recently that echolocation technology confirmed an ancient lake under Taylor Glacier. The water from that lake is thought to take 1.5 million years to rise to the surface. While we seem to finally have an explanation for the bloody-looking water, scientists are also amazed by the knowledge that the water is able to remain liquid inside such a cold glacier. For United News International, I'm Cambry Caldwell. Scientists have come up with a solution to save a melting glacier. Throw artificial snow on it. The famous Monarasch Glacier in Switzerland has retreated more than 1.5 miles over the last 150 years and continues to shrink each year. Glacier experts from Utrecht University in the Netherlands hope blowing artificial snow on part of the glacier during the summer will slow its retreat and even help it regrow. Glaciologist Johannes Orlemans said on April 27th at an annual meeting of the European Geoscience Union that covering the glacier with snow will help it reflect the sunlight, thus protecting the ice beneath. The project would cost a lot, since 4,000 snow machines would be needed to make it work. Orlemans thinks the project could help the glacier actually regrow up to 1/2 mile in 2 decades. His team plans to experiment on a different glacier in Switzerland this summer. For United News International, I'm Cambry Caldwell.
President Trump has signed an executive order which begins the process of rolling back the Obama administration's restrictions on offshore oil and natural gas drilling. On April 28th, Trump signed what's known as the America First Offshore Energy Strategy, which instructs Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke to come up with a new development plan for all federal waters off U.S. coasts. The order will make millions of acres of federal waters eligible for oil and gas leasing, just 4 months after President Obama withdrew these areas in the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans from possible development. Trump said that the order would create countless new jobs and make America more secure and far more energy independent. Industry officials called it a corrective to what they saw as Obama's overly restrictive energy policy. Environmental groups, however, quickly blasted the order and vowed to challenge it. For United News International from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
The controversial U.S. missile defense system now up and running in South Korea. The New York Times reporting that a spokesman for U.S. Forces Korea said the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD system, is operational and has the ability to intercept North Korean missiles and defend the Republic of Korea. This announcement comes just a couple months after the first shipment of the system's components arrived there in early March. The Pentagon has said the anti-missile system is meant to protect South Korea from ballistic missiles fired by the North, but critics, including China and Russia, have expressed strong opposition to the move. China again called for an immediate stop to the deployment just hours after Washington confirmed the shield was now operational. Beijing believes it will only increase tensions on the Korean Peninsula. For United News International in New York, I'm Rumi Fukushima.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is forming an assembly to rewrite the country's constitution. Maduro signed a decree May 1st calling for elections to form a constitutional assembly of 500 people. Maduro is excluding political parties from the election, saying he wants the assembly to represent the common people of Venezuela. Only half of the assembly will be elected, though, and Al Jazeera says opponents fear Maduro will fill the rest of the seats with his supporters to skew the results. Opponents say a pro-Maduro assembly could rewrite the constitution to solidify his administration. Maduro is forming the assembly to try and ease the massive political unrest that has rocked Venezuela over the last month. At least 29 people have been killed in widespread anti-government protests, calling for the country's postponed national elections to be rescheduled. Opposition leaders have called for further protests over the Constitutional Assembly. For United News International, I'm Mila Uni. Venezuela has hiked its minimum wage by 60%. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said April 30th, quote, "We're here to take care of the workers, those who are most humble." The lowest paid Venezuelans will now take home about 200,000 bolivars, which is less than $50 at the current black market rate. It's the third minimum wage hike Maduro has ordered this year, and its announcement comes as Venezuela's economy tumbles. Venezuela has one of the highest inflation rates in the world, and the unemployment rate is expected to climb to over 20% this year. The minimum wage hike was also announced during a time of massive political unrest in Venezuela. Large-scale anti-government protests swept across the country throughout April, leading to violent clashes with security forces. Nearly 30 people have been killed and hundreds have been injured in the protests. For United News International, I'm Mila Uni.
The parents behind YouTube channel Daddy05 have lost custody of 2 of their 5 children over prank videos that some have called abuse. The channel featured a father and stepmother, Mike and Heather Martin, who made videos with their 5 children. In some videos, the couple accused the kids of bad behavior, yelling and cursing at them and making them cry, only to tell them at the end it was a prank. In an interview with Good Morning America, the Martins claimed many of these pranks were planned and their kids were acting. The channel has over 760,000 subscribers, and the Martins receive money from ad revenue. The Martins released an apology video April 22nd and removed all videos from their channel. The kids' biological mother released a video with her lawyer on May 1st, saying she had been given emergency custody of the children. For United News International, I'm Matt Paul.
United States Air Force B-1 bombers have flown over the Korean peninsula twice in the past 7 days. The move has drawn sharp criticism from North Korea, which comes following rising tensions in the region. According to an official, both missions were long planned, and there was a decision to keep a relatively low public profile on the flyovers to avoid increasing the regional temperature. Pyongyang accused the U.S. of intentionally carrying out a military provocation in the area.